One hesitates to talk in terms of safety track records of any particular aircraft. This one, no better, no worse than any other. There had been problems on an earlier model of the Q400 with the wheel struts and those sort of things, which had led some airlines to stop using them. But that had absolutely nothing to do with what we're talking about here. For what you're talking about here, if you like, the actual core aircraft, the wings, the fuselage, the empennage, there is nothing in its history so far to suggest that there's been anything at fault with it, Anjali.
What about reports that SAS permanently grounded its fleet of these aircraft? Does that throw up red flags at all for you?
No, it doesn't. That was a different version of the same aircraft, and this is what I was alluding to when I was... In those cases, the problem with the SAS planes and why some airlines decided to abandon using that particular one, it was to do with the wheel struts and the... if you go online on the webs, you'll see there's several examples of where the dash plane comes down and then suddenly one of the wheel struts collapses, and that gave rise to a lot of problems for certain airlines. But that is not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about in this case is a plane that was on finals, possibly late finals. It was at you listen to the ATC recording, he talks about he was over the marker. That means the outer marker, part of the glide slope, the instrument landing system network, if you like, of transmissions. 5 miles out, roughly should have been about 4,000 feet. Now, at that particular area, that's what they will be looking at. And the thing we can say, Anjali, is that because the tail is, to all intents and purposes, sticking out of the ground, that is where the cockpit voice recorder, the CVR, and the flight date recorder, the FDR, will both be located. So even though we are seeing pretty horrendous pictures at the moment of the disaster, as you can see there, in that part of the aircraft, they may well find both of those crucial pieces of equipment in relatively good order. That will give an indication. My feeling is we're looking at something that happened on board the aircraft, catastrophic in nature. It could have either been aircraft failure, it could have been weather related. But Anjali, what you have to put in mind is plane crashes are never a simple event. There is always a domino theory. For instance, something happens, somebody else responds, there could be bad weather, somebody doesn't do something, somebody does something elsewhere, and that's what happens. The icy conditions that we're hearing about probably played into this. Whether or not it was the cause, obviously, will be determined in the investigation.